So, welcome to our second installment of GammaBox, where we bring you all the Microsoft Teams updates well after they've happened. It's been a very busy time with some big announcements, and it looks like we've got a path back to some semblance of normality, and it's on the horizon here. So, looking forward to getting back in the world and meeting all you guys face to face again. Today's episode focuses in on the announcements that were made at Ignite, which, you know, it may seem like a very long time ago now. And this video is coming a little bit later than we hoped, but that's due to some changes in the editing team. Our lead member is actually looking to go off on maternity leave. So just wanted to wish the best of luck to Hannah when it comes, and welcome Louis to the team. So you get to see some of Louis' handiwork if you're able to stay around to the end. Are on our special segment today, which, being honest, it's actually my favourite segment as well. Had the most fun making it, so it's very good. And that brings me on to a small format change for our GammaBox today, where we've actually introduced a trial of our videocast discussion panel, and we're going to be discussing Ignite. So we would love to hear your feedback on that, to see if it works for you, if it's something you'd like to see more of, and let us know how that goes at the end. So it'd be really great to get your feedback. On to our first video of the day, and we've got our very own double act up. Now, some have actually referenced them as many things, such as Ant and Deck, Cannon and Ball, Jedward, and even the Crankies. But I'll let you decide which one fits them best, and here's Tom and Jack with Viva.
Hello and welcome. My name's Jack Carr, and today I'm joined by Tom Hunter. Together, we're going to be running through, at a very high level, some of the Microsoft Teams-related updates from this year's Ignite. Today we're going to be acting as Gamma's answer to Ant and Deck. I've got the accent and he's got the forehead, so without further ado, I'm going to kick us off. Firstly, we've seen some big overhauls in terms of how presentations can be shared within video calls in Teams. We've seen releases such as Dynamic View, giving you the ability to customize your Teams video screens. We've also seen Presenter Mode and PowerPoint Live, so those on a single screen can see the content they're sharing, the presenter notes, and the reactions and attendee video all at the same time.
So from my perspective, we've got the live reactions within Microsoft Teams. Now, similar to the raise hand function that we currently have there, these have been added to that taskbar at the top. And this includes things like an applause emoji, a laughing emoji, or a love heart. A small feature, yes, but if you have been waiting to show your love for someone's exceptional PowerPoint presentation in emoji format, then this feature might be right up your street.
A little bit of a quick one, but we've also seen endpoint transfer being announced. So essentially, this is a seamless process to move between devices mid-call. So any users on the go or with meetings to get to in person, hopefully, you can change off and hand off from, say, a laptop to a mobile or vice versa seamlessly without interrupting that call.
Next, we've got the ability to disable attendee videos during meetings. Basically, as it says on the tin, an organizer can stop people from turning their video on or manually turn them off. This could be for a multitude of reasons, including a poor connection. But I think, as we can all agree, especially while we've been all working from home over the past year, there's probably a couple of use cases where this feature maybe is best left to the imagination.
From a governance perspective, we now have stricter permissions that can be set on Teams meetings so that only those directly invited by the meeting organizer actually have permission to join these sensitive meetings.
And now looking at Teams Connect. Now, this is one of the unsung heroes of this year's Ignite. And what this does is it allows the sharing of channels and teams with external parties and users. And these teams will appear in each individual's party or user's primary Teams tenant, meaning that everything is all in one place for everybody and avoids that hassle of signing out of your primary tenancy to switch to another one, a painful process that I'm sure many people have had the displeasure of going through over the past year. And ultimately, this will make it even easier to access content and collaborate with people outside your organization. Do keep an eye on this one, because I'm sure there's more updates to come.
Next up, we've seen some announcements to improving the experience of the mobile app of Teams. So this now gives the ability to set the mobile client to dock mode, as well as giving users the ability to access files while offline. And I'm sure you agree this is a great feature for users on the road who might not necessarily have a reliable data signal.
Now we've got the Dynamics and Teams integration. Now, what this is essentially Dynamics getting a chat functionality within it. So you can chat directly within the Dynamics platform and also mention specific opportunities within Teams. Again, this is really just to help streamline that collaborative approach even further.
Now, as well as the meetings functionality, Microsoft have announced some improvements to the collaboration and productivity side of Teams as well. One of these being the ability to simultaneously co-author encrypted documents within Teams. So now productivity isn't going to be slowed down at all, even while working on more sensitive documents as well.
Couple of small quality of life changes and also new features within the productivity apps in the Office 365 suite. Kicking things off with Microsoft Word and the implementation of the intelligent word prediction. So essentially predictive text finesse. I know what could possibly go wrong with this. We'll keep an eye on it over the next couple of months to see what the outcome is of that. Next is the Word Designer, which in its simplest form is an AI-powered document formatting tool. So this essentially recognizes things like inconsistencies within the document, such as the font, for example, and that will then change them automatically to fit the style and flow of the document itself. Also things like PowerPoint, more AI implemented into that as well. And again, an example of this would be that it recognizes the theme of a slide. For example, if you had a finance-related slide, PowerPoint could suggest an appropriate background specific to that topic.
Now, last but certainly not least is Microsoft Viva. This is Microsoft's employee experience platform designed to help employees thrive at work. It's a collection of tools to assist with employee well-being, engagement, and knowledge discovery, all built on top of Teams and SharePoint. Breaking this down, Viva Connections provides a branded hub for employees to view news, conversations, and company policies all within Teams. In April, we're expecting to see Viva Learning released. This is a knowledge and training hub within Teams, and we can see that has planned integrations with learning management systems and external platforms such as LinkedIn Learning. As well as that, Viva Insights will act as the hub of all things well-being within Teams. End users will have initial access to tools such as being able to block off time slots in their diary to focus, while at a management level on a different licensing SKU, additional stats can be available that measures things such as employee engagement and team cohesion. And finally on Viva, we have Viva Topics. This is an AI knowledge service to help organize useful data in an easy-to-access manner. It's similar to the wiki function that we have in Teams now, but the benefit is nobody has to write it out. And that's all that we have today. I've been Jack, he's been Tom, and hopefully we'll be catching you next month. Thanks.
Great update from the dynamic duo there. So good to see that. Next up, we've got our very own news anchor, Sam, who deals in case studies specifically, and she's joined by our own Rupert B, and that's Bath, not Bear, unfortunately. And they're going to discuss how and why an organisation decided to make the change to go to direct routing for their telephony with us.
Well, thanks for joining us today, Rupert. Just got a couple of questions, so we'll get straight into them.
Yeah, so I was working with a Scottish law firm on the project to move from the existing Mitel PBX that was on-premise. And around sort of the start of the pandemic, they really had issues being able to actually use that system, so they're all working from home, but unable to have that corporate identity from their phone system. And also they had some issues with their current support supplier as well, meaning it was actually quite hard to actually make any changes that they needed to make. I think one of the key things that's pulled out is that as a company, they did align very closely to the whole Microsoft stack of applications, and really the only bit that they weren't really utilising in there was bringing that unified communications to utilise the voice in that as well. So I think that was one of the key aspects there, but also addressing some of their ability to work remotely as well. So part of our phone service now enables you to work from anywhere at all, and this is sort of one of the keys that enabled them to be able to do that as well. Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges that we came up against was there was some confusion around some of the different direct routing propositions that are out there. And really, when we were speaking to their IT director, they did flag some concerns around not knowing the best route to go down. So we helped in some of that education path there to really emphasise, if direct routing is done right, delivered as a service with all the certified partners involved, it will really lead to being able to provide that excellent service. And that really helped in going at it from more of a consultancy point of view to really help emphasise how we can really benefit companies.
And a great update there from Sam and Rupert. Hopefully you've found some kind of commonalities if you've decided to make that journey and change yourself as well. Next up, we were awarded a Breakthrough Partner of the Year in 2020 for a company called Five9. And if you've never heard of Five9, they offer an enterprise contact center delivered as a service. And they're also a Magic Quadrant leader in North America for many, many years. As they were trying to bring their offering over to this side of the pond, they've worked with partners like ourselves to do that. And next up, we're going to hear from our very own Five9 guru, Jason, on how their Teams integration actually works. And I can honestly tell you, if there's something about Five9 product that Jason doesn't know, then more often than not, it's probably not worth knowing at all.
Hi, I'm Jason Griffin, the Senior Solution Consultant at Five9. And internally at Five9, I am the subject matter expert when it comes to the relationship to Gamma and also the integration of Five9 to Microsoft Teams. Now, Five9 as a full entity actually brings to the table a full cloud platform that does allow multiple channels to be managed from a single source. So that is your voice, your email, your SMS, web chat, chatbot and voice bot. Well, when it comes to the actual relationship directly with Gamma and then outside of that into Microsoft Teams, we'll focus mainly on the voice side. Now, Five9 is going to be a fully fledged Connect partner with Microsoft and recognised with that certification in around about June time. Now, the Connect relationship means that we work alongside Microsoft Teams in that environment. Our preferred option is to work directly with Gamma, and Gamma becomes an intermediary between Five9 and Microsoft Teams because Gamma has that direct routing relationship with Microsoft Teams themselves. So that means that Gamma can completely own all of the telephony stack that works directly with the Five9 platform, meaning all telephone numbers are owned by Gamma. That means all minutes is owned by Gamma. And it just means when a call hits the Gamma network, the Gamma understands, is this call for Five9 and transfers it up to us, or is it for Microsoft Teams, transfers it up to there, and even for internal transfers between Five9 and Teams remains in that same network. This makes it so much easier for the customer because all calls remain in that infrastructure, remain on net, meaning no additional cost. This is perfect for the end customer. Now, that's the telephony side of the connection. There is one other side of the connection. That side is API driven. Now, that API side of things allows the agents within the Five9 platform to be able to see the live status of the back-end users within Teams. So what that API does is pulls the Azure groupings and the Azure live status of those users who are Teams only through to the agent within Five9, irrespective of what their front end is. Five9 can integrate to any CRM out there, as well as having our own UI. But the API we pull from MS Teams is consistent. And we bring that through to tell the agent who's available, what their current status is, and who they can select in each department based on that Azure groupings they can transfer to at that time. And then when they transfer it across, it helps the agent to know they're available so they're not just chucking the ball over the fence and hoping for the best and it's a blind transfer. They at least know who's available and what department before they do it. This makes your agent experience so much better from front office to back office, using the same system, feeling like they're part of the same team, and also the customer experience. Everyone hates to be in a queue, to be in an IVR, and to be waiting. If the agent knows who's available before transferring it, then it helps connect that customer call directly together.
Big thanks to Jason there. Very interesting integration and a lot of good stuff to come from 5.9. Now it's time for the main piece of content today, where we actually did a bit of a panel discussion around Ignite and the updates that were there. What we wanted to do was really bring out what it might mean for us in day-to-day and talk about just some of the key stuff. And if you're able to stick around after that, then we did take a little short piece of content that we used to kick off the panel to settle any pre-recording jitters that it could be worth a watch if you're interested. So hopefully you can stick around afterwards and catch up with that.
There were a lot of Teams updates at Ignite, and there's plenty of content out there already about them, so we don't need to go into too much depth about it. But which one update stands out for you the most, and how do you think you're going to see it surface in our everyday work lives? So I'll give you a moment to think about that. And then I'm going to throw that over to Tom.
So for me, one of the big points was the Teams Connect. Essentially the sharing of channels and teams with external parties and users. For us specifically, I suppose we work on a daily basis with multiple other organisations, and there is a lot of back and forth and kind of a bit of an admin task to make sure everything's done. But this is obviously going to provide that true collaboration, and in terms of customers as well. In the public sector space, anyway, there's a lot of sort of federated organisations, and yes, okay, some of them may be able to sort of use the Teams features with one another, but there's also situations where it is external organisations and they do need that collaboration facility. So that feature is huge, and I think that's probably going to be one of the bigger ones.
I totally agree. I think it's a massive upgrade to the guest access that Teams currently has, and it will make life so much easier. You won't miss updates in Teams which you forget to log into because you're busy doing your day-to-day stuff, and then you don't receive that email an hour later going, people are trying to get hold of you, kind of thing. So I think it's really powerful and will change collaboration.
Sorry, Shane, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. I think just to add to that point, I think, like you say, it's a small but mighty thing, but it's the process around actually going into those the external teams the way they are now. For example, especially if there's sort of other more levels of security there, like MFA. If you want to view whatever's popped up in that team, you'll get your notification, and then you've got to go into that, potentially do the MFA, do the whole sign-in process. It just cuts out a lot of unnecessary admin most of the time.
I agree with that. It's, one of the updates that I saw was around Microsoft Viva, and I think it's Microsoft Topics, I think it is, within Viva, or Viva Topics, sorry. And they were talking about how we spend an hour a day looking for files and stuff in the right place. And that's the kind of thing that's going to cut that out massively. And Viva Topics is another one which is really interesting to see and how they're kind of making files and information much more accessible quickly.
The whole thing about the hour waiting or the hour trying to find information from you is like mind-blowing. If you can just cut that hour and get that hour back every single day, that's incredible. Imagine getting like a full other day that was wasted previously every week. How much more productive things would be. So yeah, I think it was a great update. Absolutely.
I love little stats like that, but the thing that sort of interests me most is the fact that you've got sort of 1 hour extra a day, but where else can things improve that's going to just give you more and more time back? I'm just really interested to see where it goes from here.
So I think one of the real big overhaul updates would be everything changing with presenter view, but I've actually chosen something that's maybe a bit more of what I class as an unsung hero, a bit like Tom's choice there, but it's the document approval within Teams, because I think it just fundamentally makes sense, especially when it's integrating with things such as, DocuSign and Adobe Sign. To me, anyway, it makes sense to have that approval process sit within Teams, because that's where your documents are. So just keeping that nice in-house, you can view all of, the approved documents when, viewing them, as a signee. I think it's a great thing. I think it, keeps track of a lot of stuff, and it's it might be maybe not so interesting to everybody else, but I think it's great.
I'm going to slightly misuse the question and say all the updates around webinars, because there was multiple. I don't necessarily have a favourite, but for me, obviously, webinars recently, or since probably inception, have been lacking functionality, hence probably why not a lot of people use Microsoft Teams for webinars just now. And I think because obviously Teams now is so popular just in general, obviously last I think number count was 115 daily active users. If Microsoft can now capture that webinar market, that number is just going to shoot up even more, because think how many different webinar platforms there are that are just used solely for webinars. That can now be scheduled solely within Teams with great functionality. So the uptake on that I can see being absolutely huge. Plus, you can also now get engagement live on webinars as well, which again just changes the whole game for a presenter. So for example, if I know I'm getting good content on a slide, people can give me live interaction, live feedback, which for me is completely different to what's previously been had. So yeah, it's a lot of exciting updates around webinars.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think for me, it's all about Teams. It's keeping it within Teams and making sure that, you have that consistent experience. And I've used other webinar platforms, which, you look at it and it's a bit like, I'm not used to this. Even as somebody who learns technology quite quickly, I've grown up with it, I'm still a bit like, what's going on here? Whereas when it's consistent with Teams, it feels familiar. It's a bit less nerve-wracking. You can just focus on the presenting and doing your job properly.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a great feature, and Callum did touch on it, but just having that in-house reporting and analytics after that event's concluded, just having that, right there within Teams, and Jamie touched on it as well, just having, one platform, keeping it all central within Teams, just having that data available rather than dispersed systems. I think that's really powerful. And I think it just makes for much more simple, makes the whole process a bit more simple for those who are, presenting and producing those content.
Yeah, I think so. I think the big thing for me was the fact that we're starting to really blur the lines now. So for a long time, what we had was meetings within Teams like we're doing right now, based on groups of interactive conversation. And then you had town hall, really, really big meetings and broadcasts in terms of meant to be mostly one direction, not really that collaborative, although maybe gaining some feedback, not fully in real time, slight delays there in terms of checking pulse. But now the webinar platform kind of fits right in between them, and it almost becomes a larger moderated meeting with some of the real stats and analytics and the features that you would expect to see in a webinar platform, like registration, like statistics, like feedback. So I think that's going to be really interesting to watch. And like you said, Jimmy, that small thing of once you breach a limit, the system actually changes the way it can be controlled is very interesting. And I think I've got a funny feeling that maybe all of these things will become more condensed to the point where everything becomes a meeting, and it just becomes a type of meeting that you're going to be starting up. So rather than actually having it as three different distinct options, because you now can see that on your context menu when you click the new button. Is it a new meeting? Is it a webinar? Is it a live event? We might see that condensing future. That's just a wild, crazy prediction based on no fact whatsoever. But it might just become up as a new event, and then you just put in the criteria that makes that event in terms of the type of interaction you're going to have. Because actually, when you start thinking about it and breaking it down, they all become almost the same thing. Varies how you do the interaction based on the scale that you've got. So, very cool, though. Very cool. All right, with that then, a little bit around meetings, but maybe moving a bit more into the room space. So Microsoft also mentioned some improvements to their managed meeting room service that's out there. I guess the question is, though, but will we actually ever need the meeting room spaces again? the world's changed a bit. So where are we with that? I mean, in your opinion, are meeting rooms still relevant? And, well, what do they look like moving forward? I see Jamie's eager to answer that.
I watched Jared Pataro's session about the hybrid world of work, and he talked a lot around meetings. And I think personally that office space is going to end up being basically just meeting space, and you'll have the option whether or not you go into the office or you go and join that meeting online in Teams from wherever you are or wherever you happen to be. And he said something which I thought was quite interesting, which is we can't rely on physical space like we used to, given the whole situation with COVID and stuff. So I think meeting rooms will be much more inclusive for remote participants, which for me, having worked remotely from the head office for a long time, is super important, because I've always found myself a little bit on the periphery, and you almost have to be brought into the conversation. Whereas the way that Microsoft are trying to make it go, the technology will really support that and make it much more inclusive for everybody, regardless of whether you're in the meeting room itself or joining online, which I think is going to be really interesting. And the other thing that I liked about it was the intelligent speakers, which they were talking about, which are, they can capture up to 10 different people's voices and transcribe that. So, for people who are on the outside, didn't quite catch it, they can read it. And for anybody who's missed the meeting, it's been recorded, they can literally read the transcription. Anybody who's foreign language, are working in a foreign language or their second language, for example, as well. It's really, really inclusive. So I think it's really powerful stuff, which is really cool.
Excellent. So in your opinion, the meeting room spaces are there to stay, but probably 100%. Not how we've seen them in the past.
Yeah, exactly.
The meeting room spaces, I think, will probably be more fundamentally important than they ever have been, but in a completely different way. There will be more of them, but less size. There will definitely need to be more collaborative spaces.
Yeah, I think so. I think meeting spaces are, physical meeting spaces are here to stay. I don't see them leaving, but I see that essentially how we view them is going to change. I think in the past they've maybe been seen as a necessary investment to an organization, whereas now I think it's mostly maybe around culture and how you want your workers to engage with each other. It's fantastic that we all have the ability that we're all sat in different locations now and we can speak as if we are in a room together. But I think giving users that choice as to do they actually physically want to be in the room, I think that's something that is important and does stay ultimately. But that gap between those who are in the room and those who aren't is that is becoming blurred.
I agree. I think I agree with everything that everybody said, and I think from taking it from sort of personal conversations that I've had with people we interact with on a daily basis, especially specifically in kind of public sector, and I imagine it's the same across everywhere, is the fact that the organisations are looking to move back into the office, but as Jack said, it's a cultural thing and how they choose to actually go about implementing that return. I think that in the situation we've all been living through just now, it's been strange to say the least, but I think the biggest thing that people are keen to do is actually get back and weirdly enough get that sort of human interaction. That's the sort of thing I'm feeling. But yeah, fine, we're not going back in the same capacity, but to actually be, like you say, Jack, it's good that we've got a platform that we can communicate like this, but to actually go and be around people in person it's like a totally different experience. And I think from conversations I've had, a lot of people are really keen to get back to that. So yes, the meeting rooms are actually going to be there to stay, and they're going to be used in different ways. It's the long and short of that.
Yeah, great. I think I agree with everything that's been said. From my perspective, fundamentally, the need and requirement for a meeting room hasn't changed. If anything, all we're doing is fostering the behaviours and working practices that were actually, which actually drove the need for a meeting room or a meeting space, and that is to go and closely collaborate with several of your peers on a specific topic That's what you're going to have a meeting about, right? You go and have a meeting to discuss something, a topic that you want to work on and reach a decision point together on, or present some of the findings on a kind of project. But I agree the fact that is that in some organisations, several of those meeting spaces were only ever designated for kind of drop zones, etc., so that people could from that same office could go in. But with a hybrid workforce that's going to be present for quite some time, and the need to have everybody feeling as if they're part of the meeting, I think the technology is now finally getting to the point where, as to Jamie's point, people aren't having to be introduced into the conversation. You can actually now start to feel part of it and be there a bit more. And I think Teams is going to have changed the etiquette of how we do that. In terms of we're all now much more aware of how we operate and discuss things online. So I can see that our own personal practices may help foster better working practices in these rooms. But yeah, interesting. Sorry, on you go, Jimmy.
I was just going to say, I feel the most connected as I ever have since we've been working remotely and everybody's working remotely. I don't feel like I'm missing information now, whereas when people were in the office and I wasn't, I feel like I was sometimes out of the loop a little bit. So yeah, I think just like you say, the etiquette of, and it's outside of meetings as well. I think, putting everything in a shared space where people are up to date for those important updates is really key. So, and meetings are a big part of that as well.
I think so. Spot on. And you mentioned as well about the intelligent speakers, and you're looking forward to it. I actually took a note down here saying, are they really intelligent speakers or are they creepy speakers? But that's a personal thing. Listening to everything you say and taking your word for word. All right. Some of the big thing then. A big announcement was around Azure Communication Service and with Teams Interop. So without going into too much detail about Azure Communication Service, but it is the platform to allow organizations to build their own custom apps on top of the Teams media framework to expose external apps for communications like customers, etc., and also bring them straight into Microsoft Teams. So in your opinion, based on what you've seen, where do you think we're actually going to see this come to life, and how are we going to see people embrace it? And I'm going to throw that one directly to Callum.
That's a hard one to answer, simply because it's reasonably new. I don't know, in the future I can see things being much more personalised per organisation. Obviously everybody just now uses Teams for calling, but I can see things being surfaced elsewhere if they're using much more customised applications. I could probably see that's where the niche will come with Azure Communication Service, and that's where the benefit will be, as opposed to everybody using this one application. Everybody can use their own applications. I'm pretty sure that's probably where it's going to go in the future.
I think it's what organizations make of it. I think, the ability to go and develop your custom applications. What it's sort of transforming Microsoft from is, a bundle of software packages that your business can choose to work in a way that suits, this is, our subscription. What's changing is that Microsoft's operating in a way that they will, allow you to build your own custom way of working with your own custom applications and enable you to run your business however you may see fit on platforms that you ultimately develop. So it's sort of, changing that previous relationship with software vendors, as it were.
I think so. Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth in that, Jack. I think certainly what I see is that over the years you've seen Microsoft change from you must use our software and our applications to we're actually looking to empower people and give them the frameworks to go and build and create themselves. And the fact that we have a Microsoft UC app in the form of Teams, and hugely popular, that Teams client itself is actually just stitching together a lot of the different fabric and the different components that underlie within Azure. By starting to expose these components to people to come up with their own solutions now, I think Microsoft's stepping away from the Teams is the only answer for UC, and starting to empower people to actually use the same fabric that they've created on a global scale for organizations to start making really feature-rich apps that could take things in a direction that Microsoft haven't even thought of or considered for their interaction. So be interested to see where it goes, and it'll also be interesting to see if that ability translates into organizations being able to make things like their own phone systems and their own UC apps using the same underlying components as Teams to help fill niche requirements. But we'll see where that goes. All right, guys, let's wrap up there then. Thank you very much. I think I had lots of fun doing it. I hope it was fun for you guys as well.
Great. Well, if you made it through, congratulations and thanks for hanging around. Please do share your feedback, though, as it's the only way we'll improve these sessions. If you watched the last episode and you're watching this one, you might have noticed, the keen eyes among you, that there's no purple backgrounds today. And you know what that is? Just #feedback, so keep it coming. Listen, thank you for joining, and I really hope to see you next time. But as promised, if you stick around for a few more minutes, you'll get to enjoy my favourite bit of content, and it's just a bit of fun that we made from actually recording that discussion panel. So here you are.
What's your favourite flavour of crisps?
Ooh.
I'm going to start with Callum. It's got to be prawn cocktail, right? It's got to be prawn cocktail.
No, I have one answer, because ideally it would be salt and pepper, but if there's anything that's spicier somewhere out there, you get the bizarre flavours sometimes, like they're like one-off specials, it would be one of them. Or it's McCoy's, Seabrooks, they do like the special, very spicy flavours, but other than that, I would just stick to the salt and pepper first of all.
Interesting sign of the times, I think. Salt and pepper used to be a flavour of crisp that my dad could only bring back when he'd gone to offshore, like in Norway or whatever, in a different country. So he'd bring it back because it wasn't something that was readily available in the shops. It was always like a kettle crisp or something. So that is interesting to hear that one come out. Jamie, what about you?
Sweet chili. Love it. That's the sign of the times as well.
Yeah. Totally not one, yeah. All right, cracking. Sweet chili it is. Any particular brand, or is it just, sweet chili and you're happy?
Kettle chips are good, but I think it's Tyrrell's do a sweet chili and red pepper one. They're really good. I really like them.
Yeah, I like Tyrrell's. They are a good one. I think they're better than kettle chips in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you might be right.
Can I just say something controversial about sweet chili, though? I've got a problem with it, because you either want the spice or you don't want the spice. So you either want the chili or you want the sweetness. Can somebody make their mind up? That's why I don't like sweet chili. That's all.
Best of both worlds, isn't it?
It's true, but I disagree with it. It's fundamental to just disagree with it. That's
Too much fence sitting going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Callum, your combination is the combination of the world's two most popular condiments: salt and pepper.
True, but it's on the spice level, so it's spicy. There's sweet chilies, like both as well. Sorry, on you go.
That's fine. It's all good, man. Yeah, interesting stuff. What about you, Tom?
Callum and Jamie have both given them a shout out. It's salt and vinegar McCoy's / kettle chips, salt and vinegar, or just sort of Old Faithful Pringles sour cream and check. Simple as. That's it.
So you're a salt and vinegar or sour cream and chive, are you?
Yeah, but it's got to be strong salt and vinegar, like burn the roof of my mouth.
Yeah. Good.
By the way, I am absolutely in agreement with you there. Pickled onion and salt and vinegar. Usually, it's salt and vinegar for me is the ultimate one. I think the Tyrrell's ones actually of that are one of the best out there. Really strong. It's like the cider vinegar stuff. So makes your eyes bore a bit. But the one crisp that I think is top of all charts there, but it's not something I ever have very often. Salt and vinegar discos. I mean, that's an eye for that. So good, yeah.
You only get them at petrol stations now, I think. I've not seen them in any shop. Them and Squares as well.
Squares. They're a good one.
Squares were dangerous, though. Those sharp edges.
They were pretty sharp.
Yeah.
Especially if you went salt and vinegar, because then you just get salt and vinegar right into a cut in your mouth.
That was the fun.
Deadly. What about you, Jack? Then is your flavour being said, or are you got a
sour cream Pringles was one of the options, but I've actually come up with something else as the discussion's gone on, and I think it's probably a scarcity thing because I don't think you can get them anymore. But do you remember Walker's? They had it was a black packet, and I'm pretty sure it was like barbecue rib. These might have been out for like 10 years since they've been discontinued. Like, because I've not seen them in a very long time, but they were a good crisp.
Fun fact about Walker's crisps is, according to online dating anyway, I've never checked it, but a lot of girls have this in their profile. Walker's crisps always go out of date on a Saturday.
I thought it was all crisps, is it not? All crisps go out of date on a Saturday.
I think it's.
I don't know.
Is it not a Sunday? Just let's just double check that. And it's all for just continuity, so that they've got cycles in there. Anyway,
Right.
Moving on.